Still on Canberra politics, and it's been a big day for defence in Canberra with the announcement that Japan's Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, they've been chosen now to build the new Australian Navy fleet of frigates after winning a tight contest, I think with Germany. It's a $10 billion contract, this contract for these frigates. Here was Defence Minister Richard Marles on the significance of this deal.
This is clearly the biggest defence industry agreement that will ever have been struck between Japan and Australia. In fact, it's really one of the biggest defence exports that Japan has ever engaged in. And as I say, it is a very significant moment in our bilateral relationship.
Joining me now, Sky's political editor, Andrew Clennell. Great to see you again, my friend. As you know, I'm a regular visitor to Japan, and if the Japanese say we're going to build something, guess what? They'll actually build it, Andrew.
Well, would we have been better off with their submarines, at least in the short term? I know they weren't nuclear submarines, but gee whiz, I mean, there's still some questions about AUKUS, isn't there? And one of the things about these contracts, these issues, is once governments change and they change their minds, or once there's a hitch in acquisition, you're looking at another decade before you get these things. And this feels like it's a process that's just taken, well, it's taken too long with this government. Like, they're 4 years in now, or 3.5, I should correct myself, but and we're finally at this. We've had to have a defence strategic review, a separate frigate review, and now this decision, but at least they're getting on with it.
Yeah, they are, but I noticed some of the critics today were quick to say, well, it's great when we do these deals, particularly good that it's with Japan, because as I said, they're reliable. But the critics say, oh, well, defence often gets involved, and they, you know, you get halfway through building a frigate and they say, oh, can we shift the porthole on the left-hand side to the right-hand side because it'd suit us better, and suddenly the whole process doubles in cost and in time to do.
Well, you always expect the cost blowouts, don't you? But it's looking like 2030 for the first three to be delivered from Japan, then they get manufactured. Similar to the AUKUS deal in that respect, though, isn't it? Just don't invade us for the next 5 or 6 years, Steve. That's the main thing. We're sort of, we're getting there slowly.
We are getting there slowly, but I mean, the other good thing about this, Andrew, when you think about the relationships between the countries, I mean, Australia and Japan have had an extraordinary relationship given what unfolded in World War II, since everyone watching us, you, me, we've all bought Japanese products, Toyotas, Sony televisions, whatever they might be. But it cements that defence relationship between Australia, India and Japan and the US, and China would be looking at this going, oh, well, here we go again.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the current Prime Minister and the previous Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, and indeed Malcolm Turnbull as well, had very close relations with Japanese leaders, and there's a reason for that. It is China. It is that commonality of fear about China. And, you know, there's people who said we should have JAUKUS, not just AUKUS. And you mentioned the Quad meeting there. They remember that as well. So from that point of view, it does make sense to team with them in the region. I know the government says that wasn't a consideration, but I think it makes more sense than going with the Germans. Having said that, we've already cancelled a German tank contract. So how well are we going with them at the moment?
Yeah, not sure we need tanks anymore. Look, I watched with great interest your interview with Annika Wells on this social media ban for children under the age of 16. Is going to kick in December. Already there's some serious questions about whether this is actually going to work or not. Here's a little bit of what she said to you this afternoon, earlier.
Under the law, the onus is on the platforms to make sure that they have identified any social media accounts that are held by under 16s, and that on day one, those social media accounts are deactivated. They've also got to take reasonable steps to make sure that no new accounts are activated, that anyone trying to get around the system, they've taken reasonable steps to try and stop that from happening and to clean up errors as we go. Because anything that's world leading, anything that we're trying to do, we're trying a big swing, it's going to look a bit messy on the way through that.
I want this to work, but I just can't see how the kids are not going to get around it. They'll get someone over 16 to open an account and they'll just use that, won't they? Or am I being too cynical?
No, I don't think you are being cynical at all. I mean, you know, I don't know which metaphor to go with. They put the cart before the horse, and you know the horse is bolted, or you know there's a horse involved somewhere, Steve. But look, I don't have any doubt about that. I think the age assurance technology isn't 100% yet. That causes its own issues because then people are going to be identified as under 16 when they're not, if you use that, and then they're going to be asked for digital ID or something. That's going to annoy people. On the other side of the equation, you know, do we really expect this to work? Do we expect it to be implemented? What does it mean for the social lives of people who are 14, 15? Maybe fair enough, definitely fair enough for 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, etc. And, you know, I think easier in terms of capturing the younger generation and parents being able to say it's illegal till you're 16. And even Annika Wells admitted that's a big part of it. But then at what time do the big tech firms find? Well, she says it's if they're systemically shown to be giving young people accounts. And what a moment. I mean, it's going to be a massive story over summer with, you know, this day one concept I've uncovered today, December 10, bang, you know, your 14-year-old account's down, your 15-year-old account's down, everyone's account's down, and them all trying to get around it after that. It's a huge moment, and it's one of those parts of public policy. I mean, we talk about defence frigates and we talk about any number of things that go over the heads of people. This really affects people. This is something the federal government is doing, which is going to affect hundreds of thousands of people, whether it's parents or it's kids. So I know it's something News Corp championed because they were concerned about cyberbullying. They were concerned justifiably about the amount of time kids spend on their phones, etc. There's a lot of bullying, though, in those messaging apps, isn't there? And this is the way that 14 and 15-year-olds connect. And I was remarking to Annika Wells when she asked about my kids. Well, luckily for my daughter, from her point of view, she turned 16 about 10 days after the ban comes into effect. I'm not sure if she'll be able to keep her streaks, as they call it, Steve. But I just find it, I think it's going to be really fascinating. It's the first try in the world, but ultimately I don't think it'll work. The main thing it will potentially do, which could be helpful, is a signal to kids and their parents that it's not okay to just be sitting on Instagram when you're 12 years old.
Well, if that message gets through alone, then it's worth doing it. I mean, Annika Wells seems like she's determined to make it happen. But, you know, it's a long time ago that I was a teenager, but it would have been like my parents saying, well, until you're 16, we're cutting the phone off and you can't speak to anyone after school. You would not have been happy about that, would you?
I think it's similar to that. I will note that they can still talk on the messaging apps and so forth, but it has seemed to me though. But you just can't get on, and your friends like to post pictures and that sort of stuff. And yeah, that's right. You've had this thing and it's taken away from you. That's why I think it'll work better with kids who are younger. But I do, yeah. It's been in place since about 2008. Social media in Australia and widely used. So it's a long time in there trying to do this, and I wonder if down the track, you know, people will have a firm view now they're for it. Will they decide down the track if it interferes with their accounts because these online companies are saying, well, you're under 16 when they're not, if people will change their view on it? I think it's a really fascinating kind of experiment that the government's involving themselves in here.
We'll see how it unfolds. Great to catch up, Andrew. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Steve.